technically the first, you could say, was like a Brian from Magic started carrying moto-built trucks, and then I guess the guy from there was like, hey, you know, we'll sponsor one of your team riders. So I rode these moto-built trucks for a while I was skating. They weren't good, but it was like, you know, got free trucks, cool. And the bushings were so hard, like I don't even know how I skated them. That aside, I believe, I guess the first would be Wheelie Co. '93, I went to Woodward, that first time at Woodward. I was dishwashing. It was Donnie Barley's first year counseling. He was a camper, I think, the year before. He was counseling this year. Got to know him, and I guess he had placed in like one of the ECA contests or something, and Rob from Wheelie Co. like hit him up like, hey, do you want to ride for this wheel company? And Donnie's like, this guy from Delaware is like asking me to ride for this wheelie company, and I'm like, who? You know, and I'm like, well, it's wheels, like whatever. And then, you know, end of camp, I think Donnie came down to visit Rob, because I guess he, you know, took the deal. I had already been skating with Sieber at Spunk. It all kind of happened at the same time, and then there was a contest at like Spunk and a contest at Shimmerville or something. And I think I won both, or you know, placed high. I won the street or something. And Rob's like, "You want to ride for Wheelie Co?" I'm like, "Sure." Like, you know, no, and it was just crazy how he picked like just a crew of dudes that like all became like great friends. But then, I mean, Woodward was a lot of my other connections, as far as like Airwalks was like the sole shoe at the skate shop back then. They didn't really try and push the stuff too much, but they would give all the staff guys a free pair of shoes. And then the team guy, Rob Dotson, he'd come there from time to time, and Ozzy was a big influence on him. He got me hooked up, so I was on the Airwalk crew for a while, which was great. They sent good boxes. Just no one wore their shoes at that point. Like, if you saw anyone with Airwalks on, you're like, they ride for Airwalk, because no one else was wearing them. Which, I mean, it sucked, but I mean, that Jason Lee shoe and the Tony Hawk shoe were good, yeah. But you never saw. I mean, I'd go to Philly and see Ricky have them on, Tim O'Connor would have them on. The only guys that had them, they all rode for him. You never saw anyone buy them on purpose, which is probably why they, you know, went to pay less and got out of skateboarding. Except for Andy Mack, I don't know how he kept it going for so long. Yeah, there was never any. I mean, not then. It was just like, you get a couple, you know, this and that, and some T-shirts, whatever. And yeah. That was it. It was, I mean, that was the same. I mean, until I rode for Torque, like that was the first time I ever got money for anything. And it was, you know, he paid me probably twice of what he should have, but I was grateful. It worked out. It's a skateboard company out of Atlanta, Thomas Taylor, Stratosphere. He had this board company. My buddy, there's a name I missed, Ryan Wilburn, rode for Wheelie Co too, and was trying to get me to, I guess I was riding for Human at the time. Andy Mack had hooked me up with Human, so I was getting boxes, you know, good boxes of boards, but I'd never even met anyone else but Andy at that point. I knew Judd Hertzler a little bit, and then Ryan started, you know, wanting me to ride for Torque, and we did a Wheelie Co trip down to, I think we went all the way down to Florida, but we stopped in Atlanta for a while. And at that point, you know, I skated with Thomas. We got along so good. Like, he was awesome, dude. And like, he wanted me to ride, and was like, all right, like I think this is what I want to do. So jumped on that, and that was cool. Ryan had a board at that point. He was the Mellow Fellow. It was like a Mellow Yellow ripoff, and then my first board was the Turkey Hill graphic, because at that point I drank Turkey Hill tea like there was no tomorrow. The first couple road trips were probably Wheelie Co trips. I remember we went down to Fayetteville, North Carolina one year for like, it was like just a contest or something. Carload of guys going down. It was random. A couple times down to Tampa, like the Tampa Am contest. We do stuff like that. And then later on, then one year me and Ryan Wilburn went to, he had been at Burnside the year before, I guess. Stayed there for like a couple months or something. And then, so I went down to Knoxville, Tennessee, where he was from, and then we drove out to Portland. and stayed with some friend of his that was, moving in there. But it was it was everyone on the couch, little tiny apartment. Dude probably wasn't so stoked on, 3 more skateboarders in this little apartment. And it worked out that, well, the one guy's like, dude, I'm over this, like, I'm going home. Like, the guy that drove us there. We're like, well, we either go back or we make this work. And buddies of mine I grew up with at Magic were going to school in Portland. So I had hooked up with them just because I was like, hey, I'm in Portland, and we skated a little bit. They were both like science majors, like crazy brainiacs, and but they had a big house on like Southeast Milwaukee Avenue, which was a little bit of a skate to get into town, but it wasn't too bad. And they're like, dude, you could stay here, like, and literally stayed there until it started raining, and until like November. For like the first time, just stayed there for 3 months, and it was like right after Woodward, we just leave and go somewhere. Being there, you get paid every week, you get fed, and you're able to save a little bit of money, and then you can be able to do stuff then. So I mean, that was pretty much how it worked. And that was 96, I think. Went to Burnside for the first time, and then went back again in 97. Me and Brett Peterson did like I met him in Atlantic City at a trade show, like right this September after Woodward, and we were already buddies from Woodward, and met him there. We went up to Boston, skated. We went all around the whole country. Did a pretty good trip. And somehow magically ended up at Burnside, like the weekend of Halloween. So that was cool to be there again for that. And then down the whole coast and all around. I think the last place we went to Atlanta and stayed with Thomas, but we were so spent at that point. It was like, I just want to go home. Yeah. Obviously, I mean, it's every skateboarder's dream, to get hooked up, but I was never, like, I never made a sponsor me tape. I mean, I had footage, but I didn't send it to anybody. I didn't, I just always felt that was corny, like, hey, look me, check me out, even though that's what you do as a skateboarder anyway. But I always tell kids, you got to meet, you can be the best skateboarder, but if you're a kook or if they don't know you, that doesn't, you got to mesh with the people before you even have an opportunity to be on the squad, It's just now everything's instant gratification, someone does a trick, in Australia, you'll know about it, by midnight tonight because it's on Instagram, or it's, there's no video. I don't understand why companies make videos anymore, because everyone leaks everything out. Yeah. I almost think that, like, the introduction of Tony Hawk Pro Skateboarder, and when you first saw that game, you're like, this is so ridiculous. Like, you can't flip into a handrail, flip out of a handrail. Like, but once you visually see it happen, like, you can, when you see something happen, it makes sense to you. And, now it's common practice. It's ridiculous. But I remember, like, I played like 007 or something. We had at More Skates, we'd have 007 shoot each other up. But I never got into video games too much. And then when I'd see people play that, it was just like, this is so unrealistic. And then now it's like, it's almost normal. All you saw, it's like, we would skate all day at the skate park at Magic, go back to my buddy Jimmy's house. I basically would live there for the summer. His mom didn't care, it was awesome. And we'd watch the 8th Street video, like, every night, and just study, But those guys, that was probably 2 years old, 3 years old at that point. We're still dwelling on, these guys doing that. They're already moved on to, bigger and better things. It's like, you could never catch up. And now it's like, you see it, as it happens almost. Me and my buddy Brooke would go down to Cheapskates from time to time. And you'd see, Sean Miller, Tom Boyle, all, Darren Mendito, all these vert guys, And I was always interested in that, and I did skate vert a little bit. But, like, I'd see Barker and Rob Crow and, like, all these dudes, like, tech mini ramp stuff, and, you'd see Barker do some trick, like, and I'd go back to Reading and I'd learn that trick and be like, and then, a month later go back to Cheapskates and he's already doing something different, and it's like, you could never catch up. Brian, that kind of took, because it was this guy, AJ, it was this Indian guy. They kind of ran the park, and Brian rented the building out. He had video games. He was involved in video games, and he kind of saw the need, like, to make a skate shop. You know, there's always kids skating, you know, like video games and skate shop. And it turned into a complete skate shop at that point. And then he took over the park and tried to clean it up, tried to, make some more stuff. I think I want to say probably like same, like 92 or something, he was there, where he had to pull the plug because, skateboarding had really died off and there wasn't a lot, no one ever wanted to pay to skate anywhere, which is still the skate park disease. Everyone thinks that you should get the hookup rate, myself included, And then I think it was pretty much just abandoned, so to speak, but the Indian guy would show up randomly and ask for money, and we'd just leave, come back, and we'd go to Taco Bell, get something to eat, come back, skate. He'd come back, kick us out again. It was like, had some guys from Reading try to start it back up, and I think they lasted maybe 2 or 3 years, but who knows what they were paying to rent that spot. I have no idea, but they tried, and it lasted, up until someone finally bought that whole plot of land and redeveloped it. And I remember the last time I skated it, I came to Reading. There was a park in Reading called Wooden Waves. There was a contest, and I think me and Sieber and someone else were judges. And then on the way out, we stopped at Magic. Now, I think that was the last time I skated it. But it was later in the day. I had my daughter with me. She was probably like 5 or something. She was young. And Tim Glom randomly was there in his work truck with generator and lights and lit the bowl up, and we skated the bowl like the last session, essentially. Yeah, it was cool.